topology optimization, but I don't know if
So
that's
we'll
how they're actually constructed.
walk through the idea again and kind of explain what you're going for with this pattern.
Yeah, I think I have to articulate it better. Like I wanted to do a cowboy hat because like we were joking around with friends like applying like the theme of a western to like kind of a larger architectural narrative. And so that kind of just became like a funny little bit. But I think there's like something about the cowboy hat, like labeled as the 10-gallon hat,
Hmm.
which I think would be kind of funny, like having this very porous thing and kind of taking away that meaning from it. And like when I was doing the I guess it was the necklace, or not the necklace, but kind of whatever we did 2 weeks ago when we had the full body mesh.
Yeah.
I was like kind of trying to do something similar to that. Just like having that shape kind of like ended up being like shoulder pads, but if something could extend also like above the head, um, and like formally somewhat resemble what I'm going for, be really interesting.
Well, I love the idea. I'd say some things to get started with this. What Rhino do you have?
I have 8.
Eight. Okay, cool. Yeah, seven or eight would do. I would say, and this probably goes for most people today too, like just starting with forms. But I would start, have you designed anything yet for this in 3D?
I have not yet, no.
Yeah, I would definitely start like trying to get the form of the cowboy hat down.
Yeah. Do you think
Just
sub Ds would be more helpful than just using like NURB services?
yeah, sub-D is going to be the best tool that you can use. If you have
Okay.
seven or eight, you have access to sub-Ds. So this would be like the easiest way to go about it. I'd probably start by bringing in one of the like the human models I gave you, so you can use like a head to
Hmm.
model around. Let me close this. And then, have you worked with sub-Ds before? Has anyone worked with sub-Ds before in Rhino in here? A little bit. Yeah. I
I've
can run
worked
through.
with them briefly, but not super well.
Yeah, we can go through it quick just for everyone here as well. Because there, have I taught it yet? No, I don't think so. No, okay. Yeah, so in Rhino 7 or 8, in Rhino 6, you can do surfacing, but 7 or 8 has sub-Ds, which I would recommend. They're very easy to use. If you don't have 7 or 8, you can also do this in Blender, which is a free 3D software. So you can do a similar workflow if you're very interested in this and don't have 7 or 8. But we can talk about that if we come to it. For Rhino, we have the sub-D tools all in the sub-D tools panel. You can start off with primitives, just like if you were doing anything like normal standard modeling in Rhino. Um, I like to usually start off with a sub-D box, and this will let you draw a box like normal. Let's put it in shaded view. And then you get like a soft cube. Basically, we're just pulling around vertices and then it's smoothing it out to make this final shape. And if we want to actually edit this, we've got these tools up here to do a selection filter. Right now, if you left click on the sub D, it's just going to select the shape. We can actually select like a face or move it. So we have to turn on the filters. And I like to turn on the points, curves, and faces. So we can select any part, and now you can see it's highlighting a little bit differently. So we can grab either faces, edges, or points, and use the gumball like normal to start editing this shape.
Is there a
So
way to rebuild like the sub D primitive the same way that I would like rebuild a NURB surface to have more control points? Or I
yeah,
guess surfaces rather in this case.
yeah. If you want to like start adding more to it, there's a couple things you can do. One of them is adding in edge loops. So we can use this tool to insert sub D edge loops, which what this will do is if you select it and then select an edge, hit enter, we can like start adding in more lines there to add more detail. You can also do this for full loops. So this would be a loop that goes around the whole shape, and that'll add in a little bit more detail. So I could like sharpen up this edge a little bit if I wanted to, and maybe smooth it out down here. Another thing you can do if you want to add onto the shape is you can select any face. And with using the gumball, I think we've done this before. Like if you want to extrude a curve, you can do the same thing. But if you select a face, you can grab the little circle here and pull that up, and that'll start adding more faces. And we can go in any direction and just start adding more faces onto that to really quickly start making new shapes. We can do this for any face, and then we can start getting something more organic. So that would serve you pretty well. You could also create with planes. So this would be like a flat shape, more surface-like. It's not a surface though, just to note in Grasshopper, it's different from a surface. And you could maybe use this to get a cowboy hat form pretty quick.
Mhm.
I think there's also extruding options as well. So you can take like this flat form and extrude it up to make it solid. Because I would say for your picture here, you're going to need some density to make this pattern. Like we can't just do a Voronoi on a surface.
Right.
Like a 2D type of thing. We need that density. So I probably would try to model something with 3 dimensions to it that's solid like that.
But if it does come from the 2D, is there a way to offset sub-Ds?
Yeah, so we disabled the selection filter. I believe it's going to be this one right here. So we can offset it in Rhino. Or what I like to do to have more control is to offset it in Grasshopper. So we can bring this in as a sub D just like any other data type. And then we have some sub D tools in here. Okay, wait, I don't think you guys have this plugin. I know Grasshopper comes with sub D tools by default, but there's just kind of some basic ones here. If you want to explore it, not just using Rhino, but if you want to explore it with Grasshopper so you have more control, you can use this plugin called Fennec, and I can put a link in the Discord later, or if you go to Food for Rhino and look up Fennec, this will give you this component to offset sub Ds. But this one is pretty nice. Let's see. And then, because we can make it solid as well. So it'll leave you with something like that. So that's a pretty nice tool to get a full solid thing, not just an offset surface. But yeah, definitely play around with these tools. I know there's a lot more. One of the ones I like too, which might help you as well, would be the reflect sub D object. So do an object, reflect, and then we can choose the plane to reflect on. And then now you only have to model half of your hat, and the other half will update automatically. So that's a nice thing to know as well. Yeah, any other questions?
No, as far as the form, I think that's good. And then I guess going off into kind of the porosity that I'm looking for, how to achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, you can start with the 3D Voronoi workflow
Hmm.
from a few weeks ago.
Yep.
I'd start there and see where that gets you. It's going to be pretty uniform,
Hmm.
but yeah, I'd start with like that modeling, get a form down that you like of a hat, and then maybe next week, like we'll do this for the next 4 or 5 weeks until the end of
Okay,
this,
great.
and we can talk about how to add the porosity once you have the base form down.
Perfect.
Yeah, cool.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let's keep going. Victoria?
Yep, right
Yeah.
here. I just mainly want to do like a clip-on part of the theory and
Mhm.
really like fire as a shape, so it's
Yeah.
more organic to going on to it, and then I like to do it down to more traditional, right?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that the same process would definitely work. Like you could model the pieces with sub Ds to maybe get a start. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely add some texture to it with Grasshopper if you were interested in doing that. Like you could add some lines or texture on the surface to get more fire-like. I'd say for these two and for anyone doing like small scale jewelry things, we can definitely print these out at the end of the semester, like with resin, so we can have a really, really nice earring. But then if we're doing that, I'd say the fit of that is going to be really important. So whether you find a 3D model of an ear somewhere that you can use the model around.
What about having holes in it so that you can make it with wire? to go around it.
You could do that too. That would be smart. So you can like edit it for whatever person you're putting it on. Yeah, that'd be really smart. And you can model like all of that, like punch holes and everything before we print. So that'd work really well. And then probably same for the chain too. Like, are you thinking an actual metal chain? Yeah, and just attaching that on. Yeah, no, I think that worked pretty well. And what Rhino version do you have?
I believe it's the most recent.
Okay, so 7 or 8. Yeah, so you should be good with sub Ds. Yeah, I definitely use those to do it to do a similar method. Yeah, and then also for people doing jewelry, make sure like either when you're modeling or before you export it, so we can print it, make sure the scale is correct. So if you're modeling off like a mannequin in here, just make sure like the head is the scale of the real head. Because sometimes we could be modeling microscopic and we just don't know it. So yeah. Any other questions about the process, or does that sound good? Maybe next week we can like start looking at some base forms of this maybe. Cool. Okay, let's keep going. Isabella, in here on.
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was thinking of like grabbing one of the like mannequins we've used on Rhino, and like draping some sort of creating some surface I'm happy with to kind of create like a headpiece, and maybe creating that like mesh uh chain thing that I was talking about like on Grasshopper, and finding like a porous structure that I liked, um, and kind of making it up of that.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, these are really beautiful images. I think the pattern, I mean, the final pattern really depends on which one you're looking for, but I'd say to
Yeah.
start, it'd be probably best to, I don't know why it's not going away. It'd probably be best to start with surfaces in your case, just because you can map patterns onto the surfaces really easy. We've done that before with Lunchbox, so you can
Yeah.
do the diamond patterns would be really nice for some of those ones like this middle one or this one to give you like starting with a structure. You wouldn't be able to use sub Ds in this case because sub Ds don't have the UV values that surfaces do.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, definitely like probably grab a head, start laying some curves on that head, and then just loft them all together to make a surface, and then you can map the pattern onto that. Yeah, if you want to get more in depth with it, like, I don't know, putting these petals on the surface or adding beads or gems or something to it, you can definitely build onto the pattern. Is that something you're looking to do as well?
Yeah, I was kind of interested in maybe
Yeah.
testing that out.
Yeah. So yeah, you could start with like a grid pattern and then add more onto it. I'd say if we're looking at other things you could add to this, there are a lot of like jewelry design plugins for Grasshopper. It's actually like one of the main tools used in the jewelry industry is Grasshopper and Rhino. And there's this really great one called Peacock that has a lot of tools if you want to actually set stones or gems into the piece as well.
Okay.
Something to look at.
Okay.
Yeah. So does that make sense? You feel like you have a good handle on making surfaces and setting the patterns?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good right now.
Cool, cool. Yeah, let's take a look at something like a base form next week on a head and
Okay.
see if cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ben. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, so mine's actually really similar to Colin's in the sense where it's kind of like a tall Voronoi sort of hat. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to look something like this. I mean it was mainly for like aesthetic purposes, but then I kind of thought, well, maybe it's a little architectural if we look at how you can make it tall while still being a little sturdy.
Yeah.
And see if you can kind of trace the loads in the Voronoi. But yeah, so I mean,
Interesting.
very similar to Collins, and I think the subdivide seems like a pretty good way to go about it.
Yeah,
But also kind of like looking at the, I guess, necklace torso thing we did a couple of weeks ago.
yeah. I'd say yeah, yours it is pretty similar, but you could probably get away with just using a sub D surface in this sense. Let's see. I don't know. Very basic. But yeah, I don't think you need the like the 3D, like the density that Colin was needing. So you could probably get away
Okay.
with the 2D pattern here. Let's see. But interesting, and this would probably go for Colin as well, and anyone else looking to do more organic, like Voronoi stuff. Is there's a great way to make the points a little bit more random. Let's turn this off. So with the traditional like populate geometry or any of the populate 2D, 3D, the points are pretty uniform. Like there's not really any like true randomness between them. There's not pockets that are really big or pockets that are really small. I see in yours there's like really big holes and then really small holes.
Yeah.
So one thing you can do with Grasshopper that I enjoy when this problem comes up is you can start with populating geometry, and then there's a component called random reduce that, let's see, you can set how many points we want to take out, and this will just give us like pockets that are really open because it's kind of randomly getting rid of some points. Let's do that, and then let's try a. And just see like we're kind of, I mean, you can definitely play with it a lot more, but some really big pockets, some smaller ones. But it's really up to like how you set the point system with how the Voronoi is going to be produced. So you could even like use Grasshopper to set some points, and then if you want to bake these points and then like manually push them around a little bit to control the pattern to exactly what you want, that could also work really well too. Yeah, so I'd probably say start with sub D, see where you can get with Voronoi, and then maybe next week we can look at just improving on what you have.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Any other questions on
that? No, I think I'm good.
Cool. We'll keep going. Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Cool.
Yes,
yeah, you want
so kind of just interested in doing some type of 3D printed shoe slip-on, something that I actually could potentially really use, so mold it around my own foot.
Yep.
I guess the two questions I have are, one, how do you actually capture your own body parts? Like, what do you use for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We can dive into that. So I really like this app that you can get on any smartphone. So it's called Polycam. I don't know if you've seen it before. I think also Luma has an app as well that you can use to 3D scan with your phone. You could look at either. I really like Polycam. And we can go over this quick. Does anyone want to volunteer to be scanned? That is physical. Sorry, Zoom people. You got rock, paper, scissors. Okay. Yeah, we can scan anything. I'm gonna join Zoom on my phone, and then we can screen share like the process of doing this. Let me scroll down. Yeah, if this would be helpful, Joe, we can do it quick.
Is Polycam free app?
Yes and no. It's one of them. So I'm going to do a process called photogrammetry, which is taking just photos with any device. I mean, you could do this with a DSLR as well if you really wanted to. And you upload those photos to their software, and their software puts the 3D thing together. I think last time I checked, you can take 5 of those for free before they try to make you sign up for a subscription. But there's a few other options as well with Polycam. There's if you have a phone that has LiDAR on the back of it, you can use their LiDAR functionality, which you can use to scan like architecture mainly. And that is free. There's also a new thing called Gaussian Splat, which is like an AI-powered 3D scanning thing, which takes really good scans, but you can't export them for 3D work. It's more for like VFX and not for 3D printing. I'm not sure what if that's free or not. Okay.
Recording in progress.
How do you like stop that?
You haven't muted yourself on one.
You know what? That's a good point.
Can you
It's gonna work. Thing is, the phone, you can't turn it all the way off, but I think I turned it down enough. I get one with me. Okay, this should work. This should work. Let's see. Okay, I'm assuming you all can see my phone screen now. Yeah? Oh, wait, I can't hear them. Wait, is anyone on Zoom?
Yeah, we could see it.
Okay, someone is there. Good. Okay, so Polycam, let's see. Okay. So these are some scans I did before. Also for the people doing like teeth things, we can get into that in a second. But Polycam, let me see. This is what it looks like when you first open it up. So it's just going to be your camera feed. Right now we're in photo mode. You can see at the bottom here, but you can also do LiDAR mode. So I said this is the one with the LiDAR scanning if you have that. It's pretty quick. It just doesn't do a good job for detail things. But let's do photo mode. Okay, so this is the one I like the most, and we can go through the process really quick. It's really simple. You just need some space and some good lighting, and nothing transparent. But anything like just doing your arm, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that should be good. Kind of around it, yeah. So wherever. Yeah, this is a struggle too. Like figuring out how to do like a 360 or something. But mainly when I do this, I usually do 3 passes. One like at straight on, one above, and one below. You kind of want to capture every single angle. For this though, I don't know how much I'll do. This is a little bit simpler. But the model just has to stay still, whatever you're scanning, and then you can walk around. And it's automatically taking photos. You can see in the bottom right, it's capturing photos every time I change angles, so as I'm walking around. I think you need like at least 20 or something.
It does get 20.
Probably good. Okay, good. Yeah. So yeah, we did 31. You can do up to 2,000, but all we have to do at this point is hit done. And then you can see at this point, we can either choose between photogrammetry mode or Gaussian splat mode. We'll stick with photogrammetry just because this will actually give us mesh that we can download. There's a few options here for detail. So this is up to you, what you want to use for your project. I usually just go with the raw setting, so all the data. And then you can also turn on object masking if you're just scanning like a singular subject. So we'll try that as well. And this will like automatically cut out any noise from the room. So hopefully it'll just give us an arm. So let's upload. This is quick, and then the processing will take like a minute or 2 on their server. And then we can view it on the web app as well. So any questions about this process? No? Yeah, pretty straightforward. I would recommend at least trying it. Like I said, I think you get like 5 free photo scans for them. And then I think per month it's like $8 or something. So up to you. Let's see. Okay, so the arm just finished. Let's check it out here. It looks pretty good too. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so that's the 3D scan we got. Yeah, it is pretty good. I'll leave it on my phone. Yeah, we can see like small details, like individual fingers, it blended together. So it's not perfect, but like usually it's really, really good. And we can see it without color as well. So this is the actual mesh that we can get. Yeah, that works really well. And then if you want to download it, you can do that as well. I think on the free version, you're limited to GLTF, which is totally fine. It's a really good file type. And then we can preview this in any software. The one thing I will say, when you are 3D scanning with Polycam, all of the downloads it gives you, they have color on them, which is nice, but it's not usually something that we need. If you're doing GLTF, I don't know if you can open that in Rhino natively. You can open it in Blender natively, convert it to like an OBJ, and then open it in Rhino. Did we actually download that? Yes. Yes. Okay, so by default it has color on it, which is really cool. But with that color, the vertices themselves are not welded together, which might not be a thing that you care about if you're just using this as reference. But it is good to note, like if you start editing the model, you don't want to start pulling vertices apart. So if you're in Blender doing this, one thing I like to do is come up to mesh merge by distance, which will just weld everything together. I believe you could also put this in Rhino and weld with their tools as well. You can see it removed a lot of vertices. So that's just one way to like clean it up. And then in Blender as well, it's really easy to like take away vertices we don't want, so we could clean up the file and just have it more optimized. Really up to you. There's a lot you can work with. So yeah, that's how you would scan pretty much anything.
And then what type of file do we need to export it as to open it in Rhino?
Yeah, so Rhino can take STLs, OBJs, FBX. So from Blender, we have all those options. OBJ is probably going to be the easiest if you want to keep the color. If you don't care about color, STL is probably a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to go with that one. And then in Blender, if you are doing it in Blender, just a note for the recording, I like to turn on selection only, just to export what we are selected. Same thing as in Rhino, it's just you have to do this a little bit separately. And then we should be able to open that in here. So there we go. And then yeah, there's the hand. Cool. Yeah, and then you could use subd or something to start modeling your shoe around that if you want. Or if you want it to be like perfectly fit to your scan of your foot, if that's what you're going for, we could always just use the scan itself to start making. Not that one. We can offset it just like we were doing with the subd a second ago. And you could use that to make like a skin tight shoe or whatever. So just some options.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then if I wanted to 3D print it, is there some type of flexible, right? Because obviously the hard type of plastic filament wouldn't be appropriate. Is there a flexible type of, or almost like bio-based filament that we could use to print?
You want specifically bio-based or just flexible?
I don't know. It doesn't have to be something that's like flexible, that's not gonna.
I mean, bio-based flexible would be pretty cool. I believe there's someone else looking at bio-based flexible as well. Yeah, I saw it in Discord somewhere, I think. Oh, like, yeah, Henry and Avery, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I've used their bio TPU before. I don't know if it's working too well yet.
The pellet melters and extruder, filament extruders, JPs, hasn't really been working so far, but I think
Okay.
that they're trying to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, bio-based TPU would be really cool, but as far as TPU goes, this would be flexible stuff. And we have some of this like Ninja Tech in the lab, in the AMP lab, but it all depends like what kind of feel you're going for the shoe. TPU filaments have different shore hardness values, which is a thing you don't have to worry about with PLA. But I wonder if it's gonna say it somewhere. No. Let's see. There's this TPU that I really enjoyed recently. If you want to like look into stuff, yeah, you can see the shore hardness. So 95A, 80A are different hardness values. So that's just how flexible it is. 95A is pretty tough. Like they're using it for this gasket here. If you're doing shoes though, I'd probably go more foamy soft, which I don't think we have any super soft stuff in the lab, like specifically for shoes. But this VarioShore TPU from ColorFab, I've played with this. You can get it down to 55A, which is super, super soft, almost like spray foam softness, or like styrofoam, not even styrofoam, like shoe midsole softness. It's pretty nice.
And the 3D printers we have can handle that type of softness and filament.
Yeah. I mean, I've been using some of this recently on a printer I have. The ones in the lab can do flexible, which I believe we've tried out a little bit. I would talk to one of my students though, who has more experience with TPU in there. I know we can do some, so we can definitely look into it. I believe we have some Ninja Flex there, so we could play around with it. Yeah,
Like
some
do
of those.
a little test print or something beforehand.
Yeah, I believe we have Ninja Flex and we have Cheetah, so we can like look at those two and see which one would work better. Oh, that's a good question. I have no idea. I've never seen like 75B before. I've only seen A, so I have no idea. Good question. I don't know. Weird. It says it has ABS in it, which I haven't seen before, but I haven't looked into what they're made out of too much. Yeah, well, interesting. Cool. Any other questions for the shoe?
Nope. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, you're welcome. Let's keep going. Marianne?
Hi.
Hey.
So I wanted to do something that moves when the body moves. So something printed with flexible filament. And I'm also looking into oxidative patterns that you can use so that when one axis moves, the other axis also stretches.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool stuff. Todd was here. He did a cool project on this years ago. Yeah, for engineering. No, yeah, we could definitely do some flexible for this. Are you thinking about like specific patterns for the like the base structure of this? So kind of this like hexagon pattern below the scales? Because I think the pattern what it's on will affect like how it stretches and bends as well.
Yeah, so I was looking and I found that there's some kind of like these are honeycomb, and they also have kind of like a wavy pattern. When you stretch it, it becomes kind of like a rounded diamond. I'm not sure what it's called.
Right. Yeah, all these different like yeah, I've seen these like triangle ones before. Super cool. Yeah, I like this stuff. Um, yeah, super interesting. Yeah, I'd definitely say play around with some patterns. Maybe we can like figure out what pattern works, and then once you
Yes.
figure that out, we can do like the design that goes on top of it.
Yeah.
Might be fun. And a lot of these too are, I mean, I think you can print these out of standard PLA as well, as long as the joint is thin enough, it'll still bend
Okay.
and flex. So like that
Will
might be
it?
interesting. What was that?
Yeah. Will it snap though at the joints?
I mean, it would over time. Like I think any plastic would, the more times you stretch it. I think it just depends like what the angle of the joint bend is. With different patterns, it's probably different bends.
Yeah.
But we have had students in the past in the AMP lab experiment with some kinds of patterns like this, and they were just using or just using PLA, and it would still mold to whatever form you put it on pretty nicely. And we've had these for like 8 years. So it works
Okay.
pretty well. But I mean, it'd be something to test. Like you can do the same pattern in TPU and in PLA and see what like
Yeah.
the stiffness between the two are, and maybe play with that a little bit. With patterns, I don't think we've gone over it, but there is a plugin called Parakeet that has a lot of like ways to construct your own types of tilings, construct your own types of patterns. So maybe this would be a helpful plugin to like iterate faster with different patterns instead of having to like draw them all by hand, if that's something you're looking into. So
Yeah.
Parakeet,
Yeah. I think that helps.
yeah. Um, yeah, cool. Do you have any idea of where you would like to like design for the body for this pattern, or you just want to like make the pattern in general and see where it fits?
I wanted to go maybe up to the neck and down to the spine and
Okay.
on the sides towards the shoulder where we move a lot, just so I can see how like it reacts to different body parts moving.
Okay. Are you thinking like you'll have the same density of pattern through all parts, or I was thinking as well we could integrate some of the attractor point algorithms to maybe make the pattern denser in some areas and more sparse in other areas for more bend or something like that.
Yeah, I think it would be really, really cool to have some places that are a bit more sparse than the others.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe at the
Yeah.
joints they'll be a bit more dense.
Yeah, we definitely could. Yeah, I believe actually the very first tutorial went through having multiple control points with that 2D Voronoi pattern.
Yeah.
So the same process would work for what you're trying to do as well, and you could maybe put one point at each shoulder and just control the density of the pattern there. Be fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so for next week, like maybe we'll just maybe look at some patterns that you're thinking about for that base there.
Yeah.
If you want to start on like a sub D or a surface, maybe a surface for that spine to shoulder pattern, that would work as well. But it's two separate things, so you could also
Yeah.
pick what's more pressing to talk about next week. So cool. Well, thank you. Any more questions on that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Jenna, are you on Zoom?
Yeah,
Hey, what's
okay.
up?
So I am leaning more towards this handbag idea. I really like textures found in fruit, and I had this idea of like a bag where parts of it, like on the bag itself, could have like the illusion that the fruit is rotting, and just really play around with textures. Um, I just know that I think I'm probably gonna do a sub D base, and then I don't have any plan for, I just want to play around with like how the textures will appear. From there, I don't really know, but the base, I really like the photo of kind of like the flower base. That photo in particular. Um, yeah, that one right
Yeah,
there.
like
I
this
really
one?
like I like the base of it.
Yeah.
And I think I would be able to hopefully replicate that semi well. And then I just don't know where to go really with once I get to playing around with building on the bag itself.
Yeah, I mean the sub D method's definitely a good way to go for constructing the form quickly. The one thing sub D lacks is the UV like operation if you want to map patterns onto the surface.
Yeah.
With the sub D, we kind of just treat it like a mesh where we can place stuff on it, but we can't really map it to how it's flowing. So like, although sub D is going to be like your quickest way to, if you want to get this form, sub D is going to be your best friend for that. Once we start talking about patterns though, it also depends like what pattern you're looking for. Like we could really easily start placing more mesh on top of this surface. If you want to like put flowers or something on the surface, we can do that. But if you're looking for more like mapping grids or like mapping these lines from this mushroom on the surface, then it'd be nice if we had that sub D control so we can map to the actual shape. And that'll still be easy enough with Rhino and Grasshopper. One thing I'd probably say to that is we'd have to construct a surface if we want to do sub Ds. And we can draw something like that pretty quick or something like that. And then with these, let's just rotate it to the up. We can use sweeping commands to revolve these. Like if you're looking at that bag, you probably revolve this whatever 360 divided by 5 or 6 is, you know, and like have those sections that you could array circularly around that. So when constructing lofts or sweeps, we'll want a rail or a section curve. So this would be like the section of the bag. And then you also need a rail. Let me bring the grid back. I better with that on. Okay, so we'll have the section curve, so part of your bag. I don't know why my screen is sideways, but we'll work with it. And then you'll also need the rail that it's going to rotate around. And it's best if those can intersect at the same spot. So I turned on grid snap just to make sure I can align both of my pieces right there. And then, I mean, you can do this in Rhino with Rhino commands, but we can also do it in Grasshopper, which is usually my go-to. And then we have the sweep commands. So there's 2 sweep commands that you just saw there. So sweep 1 and sweep 2. Right now we only have 1 rail curve. So we'll just use the one that only wants one of them. We have the section, we have the rail, and this was doing this to me last week as well. It's very, very weird. Let's see. It's very interesting it does this. Oh, okay, there we go. Cool. So now we have a shape. We can like edit the curve to edit that pattern. So that could like really simply get you to a shape as well. This one is going all the way around, which maybe you don't want that. We can also construct arcs, I believe, yes. And then we could use that as the other curve, and now we can just do part of it. So you could do that, and then use a polar array to then make multiple copies of it. You know, actually do this right, and everything is off axis for me. But like this could be a way to get you started. And then with those surfaces, you could really easily with any tool. I mean, we've used Lunchbox before for patterns. That would get you some kind of pattern. But there's a lot of other options out there as well. This is just a really basic example, but that could be like a start for getting shapes and some lines down.
No, for sure. I really appreciate the kind of little mini tutorial you gave, review tutorial for that. So that makes me already feel better about getting started, because I was a little nervous. I'm like, okay, depending on the base, like that's the most important part, and then I can just kind of mess around and play with texture. I didn't really, that can look messy. So thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely welcome. Yeah, I'd say, and we can keep going with this next week as well, like exploring more patterns or things. yeah, having that base is definitely a really good thing to start with. So
Awesome.
cool.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Okay, who we have next? How long do we have? Yeah.
I'm interested in doing a necklace or a shoulder accessory, and I'm thinking of like doing some type of biofilament design, and then I'm also interested in experimenting with more flexible filament, so it can be designed so it's really friction fit.
That'd be
So
nice.
you can be able, I don't know if that works, but you'll be able to like, take it off and put it somewhere and put it back on.
Yeah.
I don't know if the frame will be too rigid to do something like that.
I mean, yeah, it's good you're thinking about like connections and how this piece would actually like go together, how you would assemble it. Because yeah, it would need to open to get around the head. What do you mean too rigid?
Like, so obviously this wouldn't work for a PLA. But,
Yeah, I mean, so you could do like PLA or that clear stuff as long as the wall is like super thin. Like you could do this corrugated shape, and then if it's only as one wall as thickness, then it would like expand like a accordion.
Okay.
So you could experiment with that. We've had people in the past in the lab kind of do something like
So
that.
maybe it would be like just design the surface and offset to both directions.
Yeah.
But then how to deal with the support that's in between.
Right, you have to think about like how it's printing. If you're going that thin, you definitely have to think about how it's printing because the supports would be an issue. Is this a sketch or rendering that you did, by the way?
I just found it.
Oh, okay. But yeah, looking at this one, like you could
But
define.
It doesn't have to be like. It doesn't have to be this exact design.
Right. Yeah, but just like you could make whatever design you want. Just going off this, like you could define the base surface, and then if you're doing a pattern like this, you could just zig back and forth with lines and then extrude them to make the pattern. And then we could print that, but you could also maybe, you don't have to print it in this shape. If you're thinking about it flexing already, we could print it just as like a line. And then if it has flex built in, we could then wrap it to create that final shape. But you mentioned biophilic as well. Is there like patterns you're looking at for that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of options for patterns again in Peacock. There's ways to, let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of different patterns in here, like this Gilbert tessellation kind of looks like the start of a feather. I believe these Venetian patterns as well will make like the veins of leaf, like on a leaf shape, would make lines like that, which are pretty nice. Let's see what one of these looks like. We need. Okay, that seems like a lot. So yeah, we could start by just constructing a very, very simple surface. So with Peacock here, with this specific pattern I pulled out, and you can play with a bunch of different patterns to get different shapes. I'm just using the Venetian one here, which needs points like on a mesh to work with. So I'm just really quickly constructing an organic kind of mesh here. And then if we can deconstruct it into the points and the edges, I believe we can plug the points in here. And then giving it a start into C, maybe just see what would work. Let's see, is it doing something? Okay, so yeah, it's starting to give us some kind of pattern. We can play with the starting point to get different kinds of patterns. And I mean, there's a lot of other settings here that I'm not touching, but again, like, I mean, you can make whatever pattern you want. Peacock might just be a good place to start if you're thinking about like biophilic designs, because there's a lot of different options here that you can just explore with. And each one too, like if you pick any of them, like it's going to give you some description on it, and it's going to tell you what it needs. So you need some lines and then a number to make this kind of pattern. So you could really explore all these different ones. I think we can just give this a rectangle. Okay, that was a bad shape to pick. But I mean, there's a lot of other ones. This one looks interesting. Let's see. So I mean, I haven't used many of these before, but just going through, you can read the different things that it does, and then add in sliders and stuff and get different patterns. So let's just do. Interesting. So yeah, a lot of stuff to explore. Cool. Yeah. Any other questions on this one?
No.
Right now? Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, next week, like if you put together just like a base surface or something, or just define the volume you want this to sit in, like that'd probably be a good way to start. Cool. Let's keep going. Ben. I do see a Ben. That's a different Ben, is it?
Hi, yeah, no, that
Yeah,
I did the top hat.
Oh. Ben. Okay. Never mind. We'll keep going. Cats.
I was looking at, I think someone else kind of had the same idea, just like a headdress. I feel like in the past week, I think my original idea might be a bit too ambitious for me, so now I'm thinking either just the chest piece or just the headpiece.
Okay.
But I like showing the diamond print pattern. I think that.
Yeah, I think that'd work really well for the sketch that you did here. And I'd say the same thing too, like we could go for using a surface to do that. So sub D wouldn't work too well, but a surface would work very well. I don't have my human head. Well, we can use a sphere as a head. Let's see. Yeah, it'd be pretty straightforward to start. You know, making it exactly like you want would probably take some more effort, but I would probably just start with like laying down some curves, and then you can kind of edit these to be whatever form you're looking for. Let's see, let's change this. And then, yeah, you could do like a couple of these. Start getting kind of whatever pattern looks good, and then maybe like bring these down to the shoulders or the back. And then once you have that, we can really easily, like just with a network of curves. So turn off these points. So 1, 2, 3, set those, and then we can get a loft out of that. Which is backwards. Let's do it again. So 1, 2, and then 3. Okay. And then we start getting like a more organic surface. So it's kind of reminiscent of the sub D, it's just controlled with these curves. And then once we have that actual surface, we can use any of our tiling patterns just to give it that pattern there. And you could play with the, where we go, with the UVs to make it more dense or less dense, however you like it. And I believe as well, you could also, you could densify the pattern by pulling the curves closer or farther apart. Is that true? No. It's looking the same to me. Anyway, this would make a pattern on a surface, and then you can control the UVs just with the sliders like before. So make it however dense you want. So that'd probably be a good way to start. Yeah. And then like once you have all these curves, you can pipe them and make them solid if you want to get like some definition on them. And then I don't know if you're looking at like the detailing of these two, but if you wanted to do like beading or like a detail work on top of the curves you get, like I see these are probably made up of, you know, fishing wire beads and other things. Like you could use maybe the nodes of the curves to put more detail, or do a different treatment on like the line versus the node of the grid pattern.
I remember you said there was a plugin for the jewelry. Which one is that called?
Yeah, that would be Peacock. And that has options like if you want to do pearls or gems or cabochons, a lot of options there. I don't think I have Peacock on here, but I have it on my other computer. I use it all the time. It is pretty nice. So maybe I'll get that for next week and we can look at that as well. So yeah. Cool. Let's keep moving. Kathleen, what do you got?
So yeah, I want to redesign. Kind of like the emergency safety when I do some like things and plates and things like that. I probably primarily be just shaping the arm part of it and then having it
Okay.
I probably do like a CPU, so it's not like they want to do it and have a lot of things to do, but yeah, just a preliminary like redesign it to be not around your neck and more around the rest of your body, so you're not.
Okay, I like that. So, I mean, the TPU might be waterproof by default. Again, this is not FDM. Well, I guess it is like FDM type printed. I mean, this is work out of MIT, but they were dropping down silicone in a volume with a needle. So this is like inflatable, flexible filament type stuff. But yeah, so like we don't have this technology, like we don't have a vat of whatever fluid to print in, but I've seen people do stuff similarly with TPU, and they've made like inflatable bags, inflatable shoes with just, they printed TPU and then they inflated it. And I was surprised as well that it held air. But it seems possible. So like we can experiment with things in the slicer, like you could add more walls, which might make it more watertight or airtight. And you can play with that. So yeah, but you're just going for like a tubular design going around. Okay, so I think modeling should be pretty straightforward for that.
Yeah, I was probably just gonna model myself.
Yeah.
And then the shafts would be visible to any person after that.
Okay.
But yeah, probably myself as the model.
Cool. So it's more like a material study. Like if you can get, it'd be really cool if we could see it to work, because I've also been curious about inflating 3D prints. So awesome, I like it. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, I think that's all the basic one right now.
Okay.
I don't really know. Yeah, I just have to explain myself at that point. Just like the big picture around myself. So I guess I'm putting you guys on there.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But no, that sounds good. I'd say for this, I would definitely get someone else to scan you. Be easier. And then like it's really nice if you're scanning like a whole body to have your arms held out. So you don't get like mesh here because it would interfere with your life jacket. It's hard to keep your arms still though when you're T-posing in real life. But if you get some like C-stands or something, or like camera tripods, you can put them under your palms and like rest them, and then just crop that out in Blender or something. But other than that, I think you're pretty good to go. So yeah, cool. Katie, what we got?
So I wanted to like just kind of make some sort of like mirror that like you could see through it, but maybe it's angled a certain way that people could see you. And that was just like some inspiration, but I think I want it to come off the like head a little bit more.
Okay.
Not like not in fit-wise, but in form-wise, it's just a bit more spiky.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was trying to think like if this is like, is that something I'd do? Or is it like, I don't know, reminds me of something, but like, in the
Yeah.
in the spiky part,
Like an actual pufferfish, or like the plugin?
no, like
Oh.
like the grasshopper
Yeah.
plugin.
Yeah. No, definitely a good place to start. I mean, I think like going off these pictures, like these are all based on curves. And like the parts where it's more solid, I could just see like a lot of curves together. And if you thicken them all, it'll make a solid piece. But like, yeah, generating those curves, it's a good question. This project by Filippo, I think he coded this himself like before Grasshopper was a thing. It's a very interesting project, actually. Yeah, there's the Vimeo video, so where they were writing all of the code themselves. Okay, so this one was more like hand modeled, like with the script, so they were kind of drawing the curves and then simulating them. So I mean, it's cool to see their process, like is starting out for this. I think this is all just proprietary, like they wrote it for a grant. I mean, once I saw this, I tried to replicate it in Grasshopper, which you definitely could. Like, yeah, you can see the base here is a bunch of curves, and then the other just like VDB meshing it all together. So like this would be the dendro step, so you could have curves, and then dendro would be to this point. But it's getting the curves, like this is the more challenging part. The class that we did with Kangaroo, I think was kind of close to this, because we were generating like a random curve around the head, and then by contracting all the lines, that would give you the simulation part. And then if you like track the iterations over time of the curve contracting, then you can get like the steps in between, which would maybe give you some more of the striations in places. And like if the curve is really curvy, then as it contracts, like it'll get very interesting. Like different, like some parts will be thick, some parts will be more stretched out, which is how the simulation's running with Kangaroo. So those might be a good place to start. Yeah, pufferfish itself is a lot of like twisted box stuff. So if you're looking to map a pattern like within those curves that you make, you can do that too. So it doesn't just have to be pipes like what Filippo was doing. Yeah. Go more crazy.
How do I do it with my hands?
Yeah, no.
Comes off for the body.
Yeah, I mean, so that could be a treatment. That could be a treatment to the curves itself. Like you could do that as you're generating the curves, or that could be a treatment of, if you're using pufferfish, you could like do a twisted box with a curve, and that would, then you could map like mesh to the curves, and maybe the way you map the mesh onto the curve could be more sculptural. Another option. But yeah, I mean, all stuff that we've gone over before in class, but you could maybe like assemble it in a different way and maybe push some sliders around and see like if things change. Because I know with twisted boxes, at least, the way we were mapping it for the necklace is we were putting the mesh exactly in each box. So it's pretty controlled. But if you make the reference box a lot shorter, then the meshes will start to stick out like wildly. And then when you map it, you'll have stuff like sticking up like all over the place. Like if a curve is really sharp, then a mesh will like jet out. So, things to think about. But yeah, I'd say like Kangaroo and Pufferfish are probably two good plugins to start with for that. So yeah. So maybe for next week, like, I don't know what would be good to start with. Maybe you could like start just defining curves around the head, or if you want to like actually draw a shape you're like going for with a sub D, you could do that. I don't know if it would, maybe help us inform the shaper after, but I don't think the sub D would like do curves at all. If you're doing surfaces, you could like map lines on the U and V values, and then you could use the surface to control maybe the baselines, and then you simulate them after that. Some options. Yeah, cool. Cool, let's keep going. Ooh, yeah, some grills. I like this. We have two grills to talk. Oh, they're back to back. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, originally I was gonna maybe do a remote pattern and then be a mesh. Like I don't know if it should be accentuated or like have its own form coming off of the dentures, or it should be completely blanket and be one space.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Is that just like a fitting question? Like how it would
Yeah,
feel
like
to wear?
whether I should make it a surface or
Oh, I see. So I can tell you what I did with Jake.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be like just
That one, yeah, that one was interesting. Let's pull up a photo for reference. Great. Do I have another photo? Is that just Virginia Tech doing this? Or did I? Maybe. Annoying. I can put a picture in the Discord though. Might be better. I don't think I have the file with do I? Maybe. Okay, so the people going after grills, is a project I did a few weeks ago. This one though, it was kind of like what I did to the scan of your arm like 30 minutes ago, where since I had the mold of his teeth, or I had the positive of his teeth, so I had this. Like if you're going to the store and getting those like things you can bite into, that'll give you the negative of it. So it's like you could probably scan that the same way we did just a second ago with Polycam, and then produce the positive in Grasshopper, or you could fill the negative with plaster or something and like get the positive. When I was working on the project, I scanned the positive, which worked out really, really well, and then took that positive into Grasshopper. So we can pull up Polycam again and look at those. But yeah, these are the 3 scans here. So I think I put it on the upper teeth. So this scan turned out really, really nicely. But I also went really slow and took like 100 photos or something, whereas we just did 20 earlier today. But I took this, and I think what I did is, so let's see. So if we have his, say this is his teeth, yeah? Can make this a little bit better. Okay. Okay, this is his teeth, yeah? Let's see. Okay, basically what I did is, this is the scan of his teeth. I took just another sub D shape and kind of place this over the area I wanted the grills to be on. So say it was something kind of like this. So this is just saying I want to crop out the scan at this location. So I just want to keep these 2 teeth. So I think I was going for like these 2 right here. So once you have that, you can take the intersection of the big blob that I made. So like this part, so this would be like the mask. You could take the intersection between the mask and the scan of the teeth, and that would leave you with just the mesh of the teeth. And then if you just do an offset of that mesh, you can get the cap. And then you can like sculpt down the cap however you want. And then, I mean, that'll give you the really basic form of the grills. So, I mean, we could even do that like super quick here. This is not what I wanted. Let's see. So both sub these there, and then, I mean, doing it with Dendro is probably the best method. But let's see, we can also do an intersection like this. And then that would just give you the intersection there. And then if we offset that, and it'd probably even work better here if this piece was above the gum line. Let's see. Because then that might give us like an opening at the bottom here. I mean, that's all I did to get the grill part itself. And then if you wanted to actually like map a design onto it, then you can like start adding in more shapes. I think the letters there were just something I made in Rhino and just kind of placed them on top and just unioned them with Dendro to that surface that I made. So that's all pretty easy. I'd say for fit though, like, I don't know how it felt to wear because they don't fit my teeth, but it seemed pretty good for him when he was wearing them. But I did make sure not to have the design just be like an extrusion off of it. It's actually like formed to the grills. And if you take a second offset of the grill, so it's like you have the grill and then you have the other offset, you can use this offset to cut away the design.
Okay.
So then it'll like follow whatever surface you have by using like the offset to do cut. But I don't know if that's going to be useful to you, I guess you specifically, because if you're going for something more artistic like this, then I mean, you can do whatever you want.
That's like just a film inspiration.
Mhm.
Because, yeah. And I thought I would need to specifically figure out what the pattern would be. So I grabbed the stapling mushroom.
Yeah, I like that one.
Which would be a Voronoi.
Mhm.
But the peacock ones, that's pretty fun.
Peacock ones look pretty
those
cool.
pretty good.
Yeah, you could play around with those. This kind of worked too. I mean, it's been all over Instagram the past year or so. What they're doing is they're using the grease pencil in Blender to just draw curves. And then there's a geometry node method to thicken them. But like, basically, if you were to draw curves in Rhino, thicken them, and then we could come into, be the quickest way. I mean, we can like, yeah, let's do it real quick. We can draw some curves here. And I mean, it can be whatever curve pattern. It's not going to matter what this pattern is. Take these. I'm just going to use a multi-pipe because it's going to be super quick. Okay. Never mind. We're going to use a mesh pipe. Whatever way you can use to thicken them. This part really does not matter much. The next part is going to be a lot more fun. Okay, cool. So let's bake this, and then we can take this mesh and just export it. It wants to react. So yeah, I mean, you can do whatever process you want. If you want to play with the patterns, they are really cool, and you can do a lot with the patterns in there. But I mean, let's just see what this gives us quick, and it might be another interesting method to try. Okay. Okay, so now we're in Blender. And this is recording because we maybe have to go back to this later. But what we can do is really quickly use the remesh tool, which is basically Dendro, to like union everything together pretty quick. Let's just go back to this. So that took it from being like separate shapes to now being one mesh. So we can not duplicate it, we can apply that. And now if we go into edit mode by hitting tab or just switching between these options, we can see that all the poly or the vertices they're now one, so we have a single mesh. The more interesting thing though is we can come into sculpt mode, And actually, before we go into sculpt mode, we can also throw on a mirror modifier. Does anyone see it? There it is. We can mirror it over the Y. And then we can come into sculpt mode. And there's some brushes over here, just like if you were sculpting clay. What they're doing in those pictures is using, I think, the snake hook one. And then you can like start doing this. Maybe not that much. Come to 3D, so like playing with it. And like just like pushing it around. And I mean, you could be a lot more precise with what you want. But like there's a lot of tools in here. Maybe smooth it out a little bit. Maybe inflate some stuff. I don't know. Snake hook it again. So, I mean, so this could get you some interesting form, you know, quite quickly, depending on how you play with it. But now it looks nothing like those weird lines I made in Rhino anymore. So I believe like this is the bulk of what they're doing. You know, they're spending a lot more time on it than I am, but it is an option. So, and then we can like remesh it one more time, and then this will put it together. Just go to one on that. Okay. Apply, apply, and now we're back to a mesh again. So you could print that. Interesting. So options. Yeah. Options. Yeah. I mean, I love Grasshopper, but sometimes if the process to like do it manually is a lot easier to like just maybe get some ideas out there, then definitely recommend. So yeah, it came a long way in 30 seconds. So cool. Any other questions? Yeah, good. Nice. Okay, we'll keep going. Camden. Zoom in here.
Yeah, I'm here on Zoom.
Cool. So you want to explain your idea a little bit? And if you were watching, I mean, I kind of went over some things about mouth guards already.
Yeah, I was pretty much watching. My plan was going to be to use a Voronoi to kind of change the density of the pattern around like higher impact areas. And then create mouth guards that could be like tightly fit to like people's teeth for sports.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be super cool. Like, there's been people that are doing this similar thing for football helmets, like having Voronoi type patterns in different spots inside the helmet. So for mouth guards, it'd be super fun. I mean, yeah, same stuff applies here. Like, if you want to like 3D scan your teeth while they're still on you, you can definitely try, but it might be difficult. Like to put I don't know. I mean, I've thought about it, like using a mirror or something to get in your mouth. I don't know. The easier way probably is to go to the store and get one of those like things you could bite into that'll give you the negative of your teeth. And then you can more easily scan that. That'd be my first thing. And maybe for next week, like both people doing this, if you want to like start taking molds of your teeth, that'd be a really big first step. Because once we have the 3D model, once you have the 3D scan like of that mold, then the rest of it is much easier.
You can see if Kroger has a 2-pack.
True. Yeah. If Kroger has a 2-pack, then that would make it really easy for both of you. So yeah, definitely look into that. And then yeah, like once you have the 3D scan in Rhino, you can, if you want to go with the Voronoi pattern, you could lay out a surface in Rhino that you design and then start mapping patterns onto that, mapping points, putting patterns. I mean, all the stuff that we've done like with the Voronoi tutorials in the past should apply here as well. Attractor points for density and things like that. But yeah, that base form is most important. So for next week, like if you're able to either make a mold or somehow make a form, then I think that'd be a big first step. So how's that sound?
And then I guess my other question was like setting boundaries for like gum lines. Should I just create a surface that I think works on the impression that I make, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about mouth guards, but I mean, that would be a good point. Let me see. Like in this project that I did, I was just eyeballing it. I was like, I can see where the teeth kind of end and then make a surface, but I have no idea like how the fit of that worked. There was also a part that wrapped around the whole back of this too, so it's like a full U shape, which you can't see in that photo. But yeah, I mean, I'd say when you're designing your surface, like you'd probably design something similar to this shape or whatever you think looks best. And I mean, we can see a lot more once we have the 3D model in Rhino, like how you're placing things. But yeah, I'd say that's pretty much up to you. I don't have too many comments on where to place that.
Alright.
And then only have that case around it as the image you set. Because like
Yeah.
you don't want knockouts.
Yeah.
If you get knocked, it's probably
Right.
it's like too much.
Yeah, the fit on that, it's a very interesting question. I mean, I think I've worn one mouth guard before when I was like 6. And I know you can buy like mouth guards at the store that you then put in hot water, bite down on, and let it sit, and then it hardens around your teeth, which is pretty cool. I mean, you could also do that, like be another way to get a really loose like teeth scan. But yeah, I mean, the fit's a good question. I'm not sure. We can definitely do some test prints and like see what's fitting well. But yeah, something to try out with iterations. So, any other questions on that?
I think I got it. Yeah, figure it out with the old videos on Voronoi and stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. If anyone has any questions, like just put them in the questions chat, and we can take a look at them there. Do we have Riley with us? Let's see in there. Josh.
I wanted to do some kind of like claw / like finger specific theory, but I think I've been going for some reason super villain this semester, so I might as well embrace it.
Yeah.
I was still trying to figure out if I wanted to go super aggressive or a little more on the easy side like that one. But I think, I mean, I gotta go easy. So you got it. Yeah, so I found a hand model that looks like it's pretty high fidelity online.
Okay.
I'm going to try and work around. And I think the biggest thing that I want to try and figure out right now is how I can make the form that I like and then give it that like changing ability on the knuckles. So that's what I'm playing with right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I need to figure out how I want it to look first. That's step one.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to note for anyone looking, and this is kind of like in the jewelry realm, but if you're looking to get the Peacock plugin, that has some like base head, bust, and hand files like in it. So if you have Peacock, you can just like grab a hand or an ear and like work off of that. But finding one online is also works really well. Yeah, I mean this probably is a pretty heavy sub D project, like actually making the form that you like by hand. Getting it to fit and everything on the finger. And then if you want to apply a pattern on top, I mean, we can definitely like mask out places to apply like some of that pattern onto it.
Yeah, I was thinking about like a multi-pipe plus like the force block thing we did a while ago.
Yeah, that'd work.
Trying to use effective ones with that just to see how that looks, but that would be a little bit more organic as opposed to the side.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'm gonna try and play around and see what sticks.
Yeah, definitely. Whatever the aesthetic you're going for, up to you on that. Yeah, and I mean, like with the hinging stuff, you could definitely design it with hinges in place to where we could try to print it in one piece, and then just like break the supports and it would flex. Or you can go the traditional route and have like the little semicircle like nub that you can assemble it afterwards. So
the pipe dream would be I know someone with an SLS printer.
There you go.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, no, but
be super good.
we'll see that.
Okay. Someone here, like that's not the Dream Labs, has an SLS printer?
In Newton Library.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Yeah, that you can make really good stuff. Going on SLS, I don't know if you've seen this before, but I mean this dress, get a bigger picture. Okay, maybe not. This dress was printed SLS. Do they have like a breakdown of it? Okay, yeah. This is the dress as it was printed. So all the hinges are print in place in Powder Bed Fusion, and they kind of clumped it all up. So this is the clumped up shape to fit on the bed of the printer. And then after they excavated it from all the dust, all the hinges work, and then you can expand it. Here are like the hinges that they're using. They're super fine, so you definitely need SLS for that. And then like it unfolds into the big dress, and then someone can wear it. So, oh yeah, there's an animation. Nice. So like you're not going to run into this problem of the bed being too small to print your thing, but like print in place hinges on SLS, this is a great project to look into that stuff. So yeah, very fun one. Okay, cool. Any other questions? We're good on that? Cool. Keep going. Aiden, what we got?
Yeah, I'm looking at the orthopedic beds and this capabilities of 3D printing technology.
Yeah. Yeah, this stuff's always super fun. Printing it here would be a challenge. I know someone last year printed like a sole like this in a flexible filament. But this grid pattern, it's hard unless you have a resin printer that can do stuff like this. Like companies like Nike, Adidas, whatever, they're using big resin printers to do these sorts of things. The pattern though is super fun. And for stuff like this, I would definitely recommend using this plugin called Crystalon. This plugin gives you a lot of options for doing like cellular based grid patterns. So you can do like, you can really easily make a shoe form with this plugin. I definitely recommend looking into this one. I think I even have maybe a video from last year going over like making a shoe like this, which is just on the YouTube from last semester. So you can take a look at that too. Yeah, that could get you to this pattern. And I yeah, I mean it's the same thing with like PLA versus TPU. Yeah, it's all like what you're going for. So like I like this company for resins. They have regular stuff, but they also have super flexible stuff. Like I mean, here's a shoe printed with it, so pretty nice. Printing flexible resin, just like printing flexible FDM stuff, is more challenging, just because it can flex mid-print. But like, I mean, I like resin printing over FDM anyway. It's a lot more controlled. So yeah, definitely options. I mean, you could probably print a shoe in Newman on their Formlabs. I'm not sure what resin they have for that. They do for Formlabs? Okay, then yeah, I'd hit them up and see what they can do. But that'd probably be your best bet for getting this thing manufactured if you want to. So yeah, it's just getting that pattern down, and Crystalon can do the pattern. I think it can also do the switching between patterns in a single lattice like this as well. So I definitely open up Crystalon and kind of play around with what it can do.
And without changing the population system.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different ways to do it. If you're doing like the Voronoi method we used before, then you can like change the density of the points, how you're packing with the Voronoi. I'd have to play around with Crystalon a little bit to figure out again what they're doing, but it looks like, yeah, they've got a Voronoi fill one that you could play with. But I think there is ways to, yeah, to morph them with attractors. So you can set up the grid pattern and then maybe like inflate them in certain spots or like shrink them to have a lot more. A lot of stuff you play with. You could also play with thickening the curves as well. So you could have like a very static pattern, but like really thicken the lines at some spots and make them thin in other spots. That's another way to play with like the thickness there. So yeah, so stuff to play with on that. So I'd try it out, and next week like we can dive in more with this. So yeah, any other questions on that one?
I don't think so. Do you have any recommendations in terms of pattern to doing material like that?
Like getting the base form of it. Yeah, I mean, if you're going the crystalline route, the way it works is it likes to tween between surfaces. So if you have like the surface of the shape flat and then a surface like molded to the foot, then you can set like those two surfaces and tell crystalline to just put like 3, 4, 5 layers in between, and it'll make the grid pattern for you. Yeah. So. Cool. We've got a couple more here. PJ, I think there is an image. It's very small, but I see what you're going for, I think.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so small like that, but
Yeah, no worries.
yeah, I just wanted to design some sort of headwear protection or helmet. I was thinking like, for like, biking or like stuff like that. But then I also started thinking it'd be interesting to try and do that for like construction workers,
Yeah, sure.
Something like that. I don't really know beyond that. I just wanted to try and design some breathable headwear that is a little more unique and a little more breathable than some of the ones you see on the market today, like that one,
Yeah, sure.
That's not just like just a singular pattern, kind of has, a differential. So
yeah, some more thing. I like that. Yeah, I mean, this one, like, you could definitely start with just laying out the surfaces. Maybe do a surface for the chin, a surface for the side of the head, one for the top, and then you could like map patterns on that, very controlled. And using attractor points, you could do different grid pattern shapes or something like that. And you could do like directional holes as well. If you're thinking about that, they don't just have to be normal to the surface. You could add in any vector to have the holes go at different angles. Yeah, but I'd say like definitely getting started, like you could do a sub D model of the helmet, or you could do a surface workflow to just model the shape of the helmet. I think either would work for this sense.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Next week, maybe we can look at a mesh or a surface of that shape. So.
Sounds good.
Yeah. John, we got. Yeah.
So I'm thinking of doing an outsole.
Yeah.
And then applying some sort of these kind of textures for the grip. I'm not sold yet on the outsole. But either way, I'm very interested in the shapes and how to apply them.
Yeah.
For the outsole, I looked into, because with the TP stuff, I knew there's things I had to work with, and especially with programs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was looking into tasking as well, with rubber and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But then I need wrap angles, and I don't know how much you can control that with. So just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, so let's start with the first one. This one looks like some kind of Perlin noise function, like on a circle. And with these, like the method of doing this is you just have like a surface in Grasshopper with points, and you move them up or down to make the pattern. And when you're doing that, you don't have to worry about draft angle because like everything has a fall off to it. So that's pretty nice. On the second one with this reaction diffusion pattern, are you familiar with that term? Okay. Yeah, it's let's just look it up. So I forget the people who discovered the mathematical equation for it. There's a really nice paper somewhere on it. But basically, yeah, it's the pattern that you're looking at there. It's a reference of nature, of like how when things come in contact, they don't touch each other, they kind of like get deflected, and it makes all these fun shapes. So yeah, there's ways to do this in Grasshopper. I know Instagram's not working at the moment, but I can put another screenshot where it's not the easiest thing to do in Grasshopper. Like I haven't seen too many tools that work with it. Let me see. But I do have like I think it's a C# script that I can give you that makes the reaction diffusion pattern. If that's something, okay, there's a good one. If that's something you're looking at, let me put these pictures in. Okay. So like this was a keycap with that reaction diffusion pattern on it. This is a business card with that reaction diffusion pattern on it. And this one's nice too because it has those little holes in it that you were kind of looking at as well. So like there is a possibility to make something like that if that's something you're interested in. On the other photo, there's a plugin that's really nice for that called 4D Noise. These examples are just on a sphere, but I mean, you could do the same thing on a flat surface. It's mostly just getting the Perlin noise into Grasshopper. Like by default, it doesn't have this kind of randomness. It just has the point like randomness. But 4D Noise has functions for mathematical randomness. And there's also a plugin called Tundra that also has opportunity for Perlin and other kinds of noises to look at as well. And I believe both of them come with like example files when you download the plugin. Like so, and this is for a lot of Grasshopper stuff. You can get the examples as well, and this will kind of show you how to work with the plugin a little bit. So that's just two different ways to do that. The noise like was in your first photo, like that one. So some options there.
Then
Yeah.
I guess for the fifth foot, any like suggestions maybe from
Yeah, I mean, you could work with a scan of a foot, or you could just sub-D model around a scan of a foot. Like, you don't have to be too perfect with it. And then, yeah, once you have, like, you could do the sub-D method and get that shape. And then the sub-D, you convert it to a mesh. And then either of these patterning options would work. Either you're doing the 4D noise or you're doing the reaction diffusion on that mesh. Both of them will work just fine. So, yeah, kind of up to you with how you play with the sub-D. So, cool. Any other questions on that one? No? Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Looks like last one. Heather. Yes. This looks pretty cool. Do we have you on Zoom?
Yes.
Oh. To a screen share? Oh. It should be on. Wait. Okay. Heather, are you there? I see you're in the...
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, perfect. There you are.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, you're perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so for my project, I'm going to try to kind of create a wearable for the research that I'm doing. So I'd like to see if I could take kind of like cuffs on the arms and see what it would be to push like the envelope of the shapes. And against the arms, it might not do much, but kind of seeing what it can do to refract light. One of the things I had noticed in some of the wearables that you had made was having kind of that biofeedback. I don't know if that's like getting too far out of the box because I don't know if I'll have enough time, but I wanted to try to see if there was a way to somehow incorporate light into the project. But for right now, it's just a matter of getting those sleeves to where I can get that patterning in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say with the patterning, like, we can construct a surface around the arm and then use any of the tools from Lunchbox to start to make some kind of pattern on that surface. And then you're talking about like, yeah, putting like light or something reactive into the piece as well. And there are a couple options that I've used in the past. So we either have EL wire or this new stuff, which I really like from Adafruit, which is kind of like a very, very flexible LED string, which it's super thin, super bright. And then you could work this into like a 3D print as well if you left channels for it or something, or even if you printed in a translucent filament, you could run wire, like this kind of wire through it and get it to shine out of it, which might be fun too.
Well, that's what I was thinking, was trying to run it in more of a translucent, and I was trying to figure out like opacity because I don't want it to be something where you necessarily like see the source blatantly. But I didn't know what our options were as far as, and I apologize if you're repeating yourself for class, the filament though. Do we purchase that and then we bring it to the 3D printer?
We have a lot in the lab currently. You'd only purchase filament if you want to experiment with something we don't have in there. Like there's some flexibles that the shoe people have been looking at that we don't have in the lab. We have some flexible, but not all of them. We do have translucent, Kathleen, what is it called? The translucent, like, kind of filament that's really annoying to print with. No, I always think it is CPU. Oh, PETG. Okay, we do have PETG that is like really translucent in the lab that we can print with. And I mean, you would see the light straight through it. If you don't want to see the light directly, we could use like a PLA that's super solid and maybe just like edge light on the skin. So it kind of diffuse out, but kind of up to you how you design that channel in the 3D print. Yeah.
Okay, so there would need to be a channel for for what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, you could take this like wire stuff, and I don't know exactly what the thickness is of them. It's probably listed somewhere, but I mean, you could lay down the curves that you generate in Grasshopper, kind of based on the sketch you have. You could do all these curves and do like one radius for that electric wire stuff, and then another radius for the pipe, and then just like use the first one to cut out the second one to have a gap in there that you could thread this electric wire through.
So once again, one radius would be the shape, and then the second radius would be for the pipe.
Yeah, just like, and with 3D printing, I'd say, you know, leave a space of whatever thickness for this electric wire, and then maybe offset it by 2 or 3 millimeters to make the second pipe. And then that will like encase the first one.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, let me draw it here quick, because we have the electric wire and we just need like an offset thickness for the second pipe. And, you know, maybe it's right in the middle, or maybe it's in the, or maybe it's in the bottom. So like it can kind of edge light out, or maybe it diffuses through the piece. Yeah, but either way, like it just needs some thickness in between, whether that be like 2 millimeters or something, just so we have enough to print. And then enough gap so you can thread, you know, thread through that hole on the inside, kind of like a vein, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, yeah. Yep, and then yeah, we can explore filaments in the lab.
And then the what you just showed, I was trying to see. Can you put that up on the screen just one more time?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's by Adafruit.
Adafruit, yeah, they're noodle lights.
Okay.
Yeah, these are pretty new. I haven't used these before, but they look very easy. I have used EL wire before, which is similar. It's just a lot less bright. So yeah, this new stuff.
I'm wondering though with the length. Oh well, I guess I'm wondering with the length, like in order to get it to run through most of, because like it was intended to be like more of a linear cuff. But when we go to 3D print it, will we 3D print the whole thing or just a section of it?
I mean, we can 3D print the whole thing pretty easily. Like it's not a massive print, so it'd be pretty easy to do it in one go. The only thing is you'd have to think about threading it through like these different bends and how that would work. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and that, like you said, that's going to be part of the design, like figuring out how to make it all work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like it'd be a lot easier if you do the second option and maybe just leave like a little opening in the bottom of the print, and then like after it's done, we can really easily just pop it into the print rather than threading it through. Might be more difficult if you have a lot of twists and turns in there.
Yeah, I think I'd rather do it as a channel.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of lay in there, but I'll have to. That's what I'm having a little bit of trouble like figuring out like the depth of it. Like getting the kind of that complex curve as far as where like, you know, the cuff itself is that circle, and then getting the cutout into the depth. But I think as I work with it, hopefully it'll come together.
Yeah, you'll probably just have to take some measurements and you know, see what visually that looks like in Rhino. Be easy to visualize in there once you have some measurements to work with. Yeah.
Okay, and then as far as the one thing I didn't know was using a model, like what model to use underneath it for an arm, because I've sort of just been letting it float out in midair. But do you, like, as far as saying, my daughter was sweet, she wanted to make it to fit her arm. So we
Yeah.
were measuring off of that, but I didn't know like what we've done in class before where you've put the wearable on the model. In order to start to kind of apply Grasshopper to it, does it have to be on the model?
It doesn't have to be. Usually the model is just there for like scale reference, and then the things we design are just going over top. So yeah, I mean the arm is pretty much like a draped cylinder. So you could take 2 measurements, one up and then one near the hand, and just use that to
Right.
make a cylinder. It'd be
Yeah, so
pretty
it just
straight-
almost became like a taper, like it
Yeah.
tapered down.
Yeah, that'd work pretty well. I think that'd be a good way to start.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if the model had anything to do with like the, I'm gonna say grip factor, but like I think that I guess will just be the flexibility of the material that we use.
Yeah, it definitely could be. If you want to get it the perfect fit, you could 3D scan the arm and then get a
Oh,
perfect model off that. It is an option.
okay.
So, yeah.
All right, well,
Like,
we may try to do that.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, awesome. All right, thanks, RJ.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Well, looks like it's it for class. So perfect timing. See you next week.